Well, folks, it's that time of year again. Trees are budding, flowers are blooming, yards turning green, and yep, farm equipment's got to come out of hibernation for the winter. Yep, it's that time of year where farm equipment and vehicles must share the roads again. And trust me, farmers hate being on the road with their equipment probably about as much as y'all hate being stuck behind us when we're on the road with our equipment. Transporting equipment can be extremely dangerous to us, unaware motorists, and it's really a huge source of my stress throughout the year. You know, it has been estimated that approximately 15,000 accidents on America's roadways are attributed to collisions involving farm equipment. The point of this video will be to make the encounters between equipment and vehicles hopefully as painless and as safe as possible. In this video, I'm going to show you some tips on what to do and, more importantly, what not to do when you do encounter farm equipment on our roads. Let's face it, modern farm equipment is humongous and takes up a lot of real estate on the roadway. The average lane size of our roads is somewhere between 10 and 12 feet, and most of our equipment exceeds that greatly, even when it's in transport position. Add on to that the fact that most of our equipment is extremely heavy, slow, poor handling, has no suspension, and has limited visibility behind it. And to top it off, many of our country roads are in generally poor conditions with a lot of hazards, a bunch of potholes, rough areas, and other hazards that we have to account for. Not to mention that many of our roads are poorly marked with lane designations, if they're even marked at all. And with the ever-increasing urban sprawl encroaching on farmland, encounters with vehicles and farm equipment are becoming more and more frequent every single year. Now, farmers are just like any other part of society. Most of us are very courteous and try our best not to inconvenience others. But then there are also some of us who just don't care how our actions affect others. But just don't automatically assume that just because you are stuck behind a piece of farm equipment on the road that operator is a jerk. When a farmer is transporting his equipment on the road, there are many different considerations he must take into account. Most of the time, it's not just as simple as getting on the road and going to the next field. And just like the vast majority of people have never operated an 18-wheeler on the road, even fewer people have operated farm equipment on the road and know of all the intricacies involved in transporting equipment. When I'm planning out a day in the field, I try to anticipate what time of the day we might actually be done with the field and transporting our equipment to the next field. Based on this, I'll plan out our route to try to minimize our disturbance to traffic. For example, if we're going to have to move equipment first thing in the morning when everybody else is trying to get to work, we may try to work later the night before and get done with the farm and get our equipment transported when there's actually fewer people on the road. Or if we got to transport equipment during a higher traffic time of the day, we may take a longer route to get to our next field if the longer route has better roads and wider shoulders, which gives us a better opportunity to let traffic by. Or if changing fields whenever school's letting out, we may actually go to a different field and avoid the school area altogether. Some farmers have different theories on transporting equipment. We are a smaller farm that generally doesn't have to transport near as much equipment at a single time is what larger farmers do. Therefore, when we're on the road, we generally try to leave enough space in between each piece of equipment so that drivers can leapfrog us as we're going down the road. Other larger farmers can be transporting numerous pieces of equipment, especially during planting and harvesting. In that situation, a lot of them believe that the best way to transport equipment is to have a real tight line and basically only stop and pull over for oncoming traffic. Yes, the people that catch up to the line are greatly inconvenienced as they may be stuck behind that line for quite a while, but in theory this allows the farmer to get to the field faster and actually minimize how many people they encounter on the road and actually inconvenience fewer people than if they were to leave enough room in between the equipment for the passing cars to leapfrog them. Because when you're dealing with, say, 5, 6, 7 pieces of equipment, it's very difficult on our country roads to find a good enough spot to actually allows a driver to leapfrog each piece of equipment to get ahead. And in those cases, it can even slow down how long it takes for the motorist to actually reach their destination because the whole process is not near as efficient. Now, when we're transporting equipment, there is so much more that we have to account for than oncoming traffic. There's many other hazards that we have to watch for. We've got mailboxes, we've got blind hills, we can have narrow shoulders, narrow roads with no markings. We've got washouts, we got blind curves, we've got road signs. We can have narrow bridges or bridges with guardrails. We can have trees and bushes to contend with, more trees, bushes, and limbs to watch out for. And we've got roads just in generally poor condition. Very few roads are nice and wide with good, wide, solid shoulders. On a side note, if you're building a new house out in the country and you've got to set a mailbox, please do like this guy and set it as far off the road as possible. It makes life easier on farmers, and it just might save your mailbox from damage, either by farm equipment or by vandals. Many times we have traveled this route hundreds, if not thousands of times, and we know where exactly each obstacle is, either on the road or next to the road. We also know where it is safe to pull off only when there's an emergency with suddenly meeting oncoming traffic. Not only do we have to take into consideration not damaging the equipment behind us, we also have to take into account the safety of either oncoming motorists or motorists trying to pass us, or even the property of the people right next to the road. As long as I've been operating farm equipment, I'd estimate that approximately a third of the people that I've encountered have expertly operated their vehicles when they have either approached me or come up from behind. About another third have been oblivious about what to do when meeting oncoming equipment and have actually either froze up or they've just been oblivious that there was even any farm equipment on the road at all. And finally, the last third have actually been too courteous and have either caused additional danger to themselves and other motorists or greatly impeded the flow of traffic. With all that being said, let me show you some real life examples of some of the things that I've encountered over the last 2 years and show you exactly what the drivers did right, or more importantly, what they did wrong. Now, starting out, here's an event that actually happened to us just this spring, just a couple of weeks ago. Now, here in the springtime in Tennessee, it can still be very wet and the shoulders can be notoriously soft, especially for our heavy equipment. And because of this, we have to be very careful and very selective about when we pull over to let traffic by. However, even with us being careful, events like this still happen. And as you can see in the video, our sprayer actually sunk down in the soft shoulder and got stuck and had to be pulled out. Nothing was hurt, no motorist was hurt, but still it was something that cost us a lot of time, and then we actually wound up impeding the flow of traffic while we were trying to get the sprayer out. Now, even though modern farm equipment speed on the road has greatly increased over the last couple of decades, I know it can still be unbearably slow for a motorist that gets caught behind a piece of equipment. Please make sure you follow at a safe distance. I know the nature is when you're going slow to be right up on the rear end of the person in front of you. However, in this case, the visibility behind a lot of our equipment is so limited, we might not even know that you're back there. And if we don't know that you're back there, we're not going to be inclined to pull off the road and let you get by. So here's a key tip. Make sure that you follow far enough behind the equipment that you can actually see the mirrors on the tractor, or you can actually see the driver in the cab. If you can do one of those two things, then the driver of the farm equipment also has the opportunity to see you and know that you're behind, and then will most likely pull off when it is safe to do so to let you pass. All right, right here I want to talk to you about blind spots. You can tell we got our tractor and our planter right here. Now, we're not going to do this on the road just because it's dangerous. And then we've got a vehicle that's come up behind it and is following it at, that's probably the distance that you're going to follow the vehicle because the tractor and planter is moving slow. And then the view from inside the vehicle, like I said, we're going 20, 25 miles an hour. You're going to be following the planter pretty close, most likely, just because you're not going to be thinking about blind spots. Now, just keep this in mind if you're thinking about passing on the left-hand side and going around the tractor, but you don't know what the tractor might be doing up ahead. Now, this planter right here is 42 feet long, not super wide, but here's the visibility out of the back glass. As you can tell, I can't even tell that there's a truck back there, not at all. And it's not and the truck's not a huge truck, but it's also not a small vehicle either. A smaller car would be even less visible. And then look in the rear view mirror right there, I can't see anything at all. I have no idea that there's a vehicle behind me. And where this is important is if I'm going down a long straight stretch of road and I'm going to make a left-hand turn into a field entrance or another road, and a car's been following closely behind me in my blind spot. I don't know it's back there, and then all of a sudden they decide that they're going to pass me, possibly because I'm slowing down to turn. Now, what's going to happen when I start turning left if they're passing me at the exact same time? Could be a real bad deal. Not necessarily for me and my equipment because it's big and heavy, but for the car or truck that's passing me. And also the same is true of following combines, cotton pickers, other implements on tractors. If you can't see the driver's head themselves or the mirrors on their vehicle, you're in their blind spot and they might not have any idea that you're there. Now, some of this equipment now does have cameras pointing back, especially some of the newer stuff. You know, our newer sprayers have got cameras on the back, but there's still a lot of a little bit older equipment out there that does not have monitors or video cameras in the tractor. And the way to fix this problem is just make sure you hang far enough back to where you can either see inside the cab of the tractor or combine, or you can see their mirrors. Give plenty of space in between equipment and yourself. All right here we're at an intersection. I need to make a right-hand turn. We got people coming from my right, people wanting to come straight across. I can't pull up to the intersection yet because if I do, then I'll block traffic that wants to turn onto my lane. It's just kind of a cluster right here. Then I got people behind. I got people behind me wanting to come on. So sometimes I just got to kind of just force my way out here and make other people wait on me. Otherwise, we're just never going to get anything accomplished. Now, generally, it is the responsibility of the person operating the farm equipment to pull over and let oncoming traffic come by when they encounter. However, due to obstacles on the side of the road that you've seen earlier, such as trees or washouts, sometimes there is physically no room for the farmer to pull over and let oncoming traffic by. In this case, it is best for the oncoming traffic to pull over and let the farmer get by. And as you can see in this instance, there is hardly any room whatsoever for me to get over because of the implement behind me and encroaching trees on the side of the road. And this motorist judged the situation very quickly, pulled completely off the road and let me get by, which was by far the quickest solution to not impede incoming traffic anymore. However, the next clip is an example of a driver actually being too courteous and pulling over to the side of the road to let farm equipment pass, but the combine was already pulled over to let him pass him oncoming. All right, like this person right here, I was already pulled over on the side of the road. I'm flagging them to come on, but they are not having it. In instances like these, the farmer appreciates the gesture, but it takes a lot of effort to slow down a big piece of equipment and pull over onto a rough shoulder. And then if the oncoming motorist pulls over, then we have to get back on the road, speed up, and then slow down again and likely pull onto the shoulder again to go around them. It's not a very efficient system and it can really impede the flow of traffic. The best thing to do when you're approaching an oncoming piece of equipment that is already pulled over to the side of the road to let people pass is just to approach at a normal speed and pay particularly close attention to any traffic behind that piece of equipment that might not be paying attention and may be trying to pass the piece of equipment as you are oncoming. A head-on collision can be a very real possibility in that instance. However, the reality is, the closer we get to town, the more obstacles and traffic we have to deal with, and by you yielding the right-of-way, it can really help us and your fellow drivers out. When driving on country roads, always beware of your surroundings. As you can tell, I'm going through a long double bridge here, and if I were to meet oncoming traffic, there is no possible way for oncoming traffic to get by because there's simply nowhere for me to pull over. For traffic to get by, either myself or the driver is going to have to reverse a long ways to create an opportunity for one of us to get by. However, as you can see right here, the oncoming motorist judged the situation correctly, pulled off to the road, let me advance through the bridge before he then tried to go across the bridge. Now, if you do decide that the best option is for you to pull off the road and let the equipment come by, be sure to check all of your surroundings. You know, some of the things that I told you we have to watch for, check for those things yourself. All right, you see this person up here is pulled off a road, which is a nice gesture, but he's right next to a mailbox and I can't squeeze by. This is why it's best just to keep on approaching the vehicle, just to keep on approaching the farm equipment, because we look for stuff like this. Now there's a good chance that you've probably driven down some of these same roads hundreds of times yourselves, just like we have. But even though you may know the road like the back of your hand, you never really know exactly what's around the next corner. So please slow down and drive cautiously, especially when approaching blind hills or blind curves. In case you're wondering, ever since my accident, yeah, I'm still a little skittish driving the combine down the road. I mean, really, I'm a little more skittish in all of our equipment, but especially the combine, because I mean, this thing just bounces so daggum much, and it seems like our roads just keep getting worse and worse every year. So yeah, I'm always a little skittish when I gotta move this thing down the road. I most definitely have my seatbelt on at the moment though, and do every time I go down the road in the combine, especially get the blind curves like this right here. Just always a little nervous about what's coming around the bend, just like that. Luckily, fortunately, they was doing a very moderate pace and not running like a banshee like a lot of people do on this road. All right, in this clip right here, you'll see one of my biggest pet peeves of someone not using some common sense. Now, as you can tell, I'm approaching this road that dead ends into the one that I'm on. Yes, the car coming to a stop at the stop sign does have the time and does have the right of way to turn onto my road and approach me. However, by doing this, it causes me to have to slow down and pull off to the side, along with the car having to slow down and nudge over some too. The smarter thing to do would be to see this piece of equipment approaching and just wait at the stop sign for me to get past, so that you then have a clear stretch of road to go down. It is safer and far more efficient for everybody involved. Now on to two extremely dangerous encounters that I've had. Yes, I understand it can be frustrating falling behind farm equipment, but still, that is no reason to risk your life, the life of the farmer, or potentially the life of oncoming traffic. If the farmer is taking up more than his lane, always wait for the farm equipment to pull over and allow you a clear stretch to pass, to ensure your safety and the safety of oncoming drivers. In this clip right here, I was on the edge of town and a very impatient person decided they were going to pass me coming into a very blind curve with no knowledge of what's coming at them from the opposite side of the curve. Here's another example of the exact same situation, and I'll let my reaction at the time speak for itself. Here's an example of not what to do, pass in a blind curve. If that truck right there had been just a few seconds earlier, that could have been an ugly deal. Just being impatient for a few extra seconds could make you miss the appointment for the rest of your short life. Now, does this cover every potential situation that you might have of encountering farm equipment on the road? No, not even close. But hopefully after watching this video, you'll have just a little bit better understanding and a better appreciation of the things that us as farmers have to consider and look for as we're transporting our equipment down the road, and will give you a little bit better insight of how you need to react in each potential situation. The bottom line is just to have common sense. Be courteous of farmers, just like you be courteous of other drivers. But on the same side, look at the situation and don't be too courteous to where you might impede the flow of traffic. But above all else, make sure your reaction, your decision is going to ensure your safety, the safety of the farmer and his equipment, and also the safety of other traffic on the road. Remember, it's always better to arrive at your destination late than never arrive at it at all. Well, folks, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video to educate yourself a little bit about what we're doing as farmers. And hopefully this video helps you maybe not be just quite as nervous next time you encounter something like this coming at you down the road. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.